To update about where I'm at. Ooh, my braid has a flaw. In my process with my notices and affidavits. Okay, so I got one that I got returned. Well, first of all, Langford's was returned because I accidentally wrote the wrong address. I copied it down wrong on the envelope, and then I got this one back, so I readdressed that one to Brian Bingman, I think the Secretary of State, Brian Bingman, Oklahoma. And then I've got another one that I'm working on with the, well, anyway, all of that has taken a back seat to the new one that I'm working on now for Merrick Garland. I know that's a little dicey from what we know, but I feel like I've gotten enough constitutional evidence and settled law examples that there's not really going to be any question about his lack of authority to arbitrarily just rule over the American people or any of the free people, and it's an attack on all 50 states, and I'm going to let him know that. And put on notice that he's not operating in good standing with the people, that we recognize his maladministration, his partiality, his inability to prosecute pedophiles in positions of power, and apparently hold people, government officials, accountable who can't seem to follow the law. And I'm going to let him know that we are going to. I'm also sending him a copy of the notice that I'm writing of our of the people wanting to go ahead and take back the grand juries. That we no longer want the DAs or anybody from the Bar Association or anybody else for that matter operating or on our behalf in this area as far as who chooses to who's going to be prosecuted. We want to do that, and we want to bring government officials and hold them to account, which is stated expressly in the constitutions that all of the elected officials should be immutable at all times. All actually officials elected and unelected in the federal government should be immutable to the people at all times, and that means that we have to be able to assert authority over them when and if needed. And so this is the beginning, hopefully, of that regular, hopefully, interaction. I guess what we've learned through all of this is a government by the people for the people requires the people to be involved, and that's fine. I'm not going to say it's our dereliction of duty because we were uninformed. We weren't. In fact, I would even say we were misled in to thinking that it was much different because of the indoctrination of public schools. What we've realized is that the Democrats' largest voting bloc is actually future voters, hence their stranglehold on the student, on the schools, trying to insert government in between parents and children in that process, because their best chance at ever getting elected for anything ever again is indoctrinated, uninformed, inexperienced voters. That's a pretty small window. So, anyways, yeah, and I see everything else they're doing, attempting to federalize elections. All these things really just make them look that much more desperate, and it's becoming more and more obvious how badly they cheated. And I mean, it's not like it wasn't obvious. I think that's what added insult to injury, is how obvious it was in the first place. And they were just like, what are you going to do about it? Like, nana, nana, boo-boo. I mean, I imagine it must have been how a lot of Americans felt whenever JFK was assassinated. At least for me in 5th grade, when I read the Warren Report, I knew immediately our government had to have done it. Well, a lot of people had to have known that our government had to be in on it for that to have happened like it did. So, immediately, it's like, I mean, those types of things are things that really, ultimately, this country needs to heal over. And I think that begins probably with the dissolution of the current alphabet agencies, FBI, CIA, the famous ones especially, because it's obvious that they are creating crimes that they can solve themselves to keep getting funding, but they're really not actually operating in a way for the people. They're operating only to enrich themselves. and they're all involved in criminal activities, and that's what the whole illusion of crime fighting is to cover up for, is that they're real criminal organizations. I say that they go ahead and instead of operating on our tax dollar, go ahead and defund them, and then they can be the operating under the criminal organizations they actually are, instead of with funding from federal dollars, and somehow some kind of freedom from any kind of accountability for their actions, because of their they're taking, all of these people have taken on power that they have not been granted authority to have by the people, and it's a lie for them to continue to present themselves to you as if they have been given this authority, or as if they could actually create or entrust another entity with this authority they have not themselves been given. They cannot do that, and they cannot rule over us. They are only supposed to be making rules for administration, for commercial, for for themselves. I mean, for government. They're not supposed to be making rules over the common people, okay? Like, if the common law states that, I mean, if I'm just operating as a free person and I'm not operating my vehicle in any commercial capacity, etc., then none of the rules of the road, or none of the rules, I mean, I'm even out of the law officer's jurisdiction. If I'm just operating my vehicle in a private capacity, which all of us do, almost always, every day. Unless you're operating your vehicle in a commercial capacity, then none of those rules of the road and that apply to you, and they only have jurisdiction over you once you sign and admit that they do, because they don't until you say that they do. And that's why a lot of people call them kangaroo courts, because they're just rules that are made in collusion with the legislatures and the bar attorneys to separate you from your wealth. And I'm going to rant a little bit about that as well. Anyways, I gotta go because I'm running late for work already, as usual. Gosh darn it. And I just can't get the hours that I need, so I gotta quit doing this, because I'm not even gonna have a full 40 hours. I'll have like maybe 38, maybe 30 hours at the end of this. This is gonna be bad. I gotta quit doing that. But my car it does protest to 105 miles a day. Anyways, and no compensation for gas, and gas is just, it's just, anyway, it's just a wear and tear really that it puts on my vehicle, and there's just they said unless I'm 65 miles away, then I don't qualify for mileage, so I'm only 55 miles away. Anyways, off to work I go. Ho, 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 ho. Oh, and I left it's been a couple of weeks since I had sent the letters to Anderson and Walmart and these legislators, the governor, Brian Bingman. Anyways, and they kind of sweated me about a mask, and I told the lady, I was like, no thank you. And I thought her head was going to explode. She was like so used to being an authoritarian, and she just looked at me like, and I was like, I can go get a letter for you to read, but I can't put on a mask for you. She was like, yeah, you're going to need to go get that letter. By the time I went and got it, she was having a meeting with her boss, who knows me a little bit better. But the only reason I know that is because the photocopier that the lady who had, directed, I had asked about a photocopier because I realized it was my only copy, and I didn't want to relinquish it to her. So I asked the lady, this other lady she's a veteran there for a long time, and she pointed me to the copier, and that lady who I was copying the letter for happened to be entering into the room to engage in a small meeting of 4. So I went ahead and I left the letter in a clear envelope and taped in a prominent place and I wrote on it that it was a letter that prohibited mask mandates in the state, and it's still there. I mean, it's still there. No one's sweating me about masks. No one's asked me about it. Everybody else I've noticed that's on the Walmart side has been very careful to make sure they are wearing a mask. Like, the people who even weren't before, like the ones who were just walking around going, you wear a mask, but they weren't. Like, they're wearing a mask, and they're not walking around saying that to other people. So it's really weird, but all I can figure is their attorneys haven't been able to debunk it yet, because God is good. I'm going to tell you right now. God help me write that, because there was, when I went back and read it, I was just like, wow, I put that in there. It's incredible. God does amazing things through the most unlikely people. Like, look at me, okay? Working nights at Walmart and making a difference. Okay, that's all I ever wanted to do, was make a positive difference. I just didn't want to be one of those people who just complained and complained and complained. They wear suits on TV that cost as much as our cars, and we're supposed to not believe they're misappropriating our funds. It's just, it's egregious, and this is how we felt before Donald Trump came down the escalator. And so, no, I don't. And I've said from the beginning, they all go to march, they all play golf together after all this bullshit. They blame each other, and they sit there and they look, and they act like, oh, we don't want open borders, we're fighting against open borders. But the Republicans obviously want it just as bad as the Democrats, because no one's standing up to do anything about it. And the child trafficking is horrendous. I mean, right in front of everybody in broad daylight. It is so egregious that as a society we have not evolved past. I mean, we're not civilized enough, or we're not. I mean, how are we not grown up enough to end this? It's just, it's insane. The children. I mean, these people only want you to have children so they can have children that these people can continue to consume in a number of unacceptable ways. So, pray for evolution and deliverance out of the hands of this evil.